Hi, everyone. I'm Christina Lopez, FOX26 reporter. And for the month of May, we are highlighting fascinating and inspiring stories from the AAPI community. And right here in the Central Valley, we have an award-winning Cambodian journalist who is going to share her inspiring story with all of you today. She has lived a fascinating life, and really, she is onto something even better and greater as she pursues her master's degree at Fresno State as well. She is a former KVPR Valley Public Radio reporter, and her life is definitely a story worth sharing. Joining us right now on this live stream and with all of you is Soreath Hok. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Soreath, tell us a little bit of backstory, how your life growing up in Thailand, and a little bit about your roots, if you can.
Of course. So yeah, I'm Cambodian, but I was born in Thailand because my family survived the Khmer Rouge genocide. And so when that war ended, when the Vietnamese invaded Cambodia and defeated the Khmer Rouge, everybody kind of rushed out of the country and landed in a bunch of refugee camps that had been set up along the Thai border. So yeah, that picture right now is actually both my mother's family and my father's family as they were living at the camp, and this was before I was even born. But yeah, they basically lived there, and for many years before we were able to be sponsored to come to the U.S. And when we did, we followed, of course, my father's side of the family, and they ended up in California. And I really started living in LA. Yeah, that's me and my mom. And that's kind of where we landed, was right in LA in kind of the late 80s and early 90s. And yeah, we've kind of been moving around California ever since.
And what was that life like, moving from all of these cities, even as a young person? It probably gave you such a global perspective at such a young age.
Yeah, when we first came to the US, of course, I didn't remember. I was too young to know what life was like in the refugee camps. But coming to LA, and I was lucky enough that I was young enough that I could pick up English really quickly. But I also understood my own language, and kind of moving around to all these different cities as my parents were kind of finding their footing in the US, getting work. I was able to translate for them because I kind of knew both sides of the cultures. And what my parents did was they got into the donut business, which was something that was really common with Cambodian refugees in the 80s into the early 90s. Was a lot of people came over and they didn't have uh, a lot of resources. And there was one man who kind of started opening up donut shops. He was Cambodian, and he started leasing them to other refugees. And that was kind of how so many Cambodians ended up in the donut business. And my parents were kind of indirectly influenced by that. We didn't know him personally, but we got into the donut business in 1989. That's actually a picture of my dad holding my cousin Julie. And that was our first store in Tehachapi. And so from there, we kind of moved to different locations to start businesses in LA and Valencia. And then eventually we ended up in Fresno.
And of course, your family has built such a clientele, such a following, and I understand your donut shop, your family's donut shop. The name is Sprinkles, and
Yes.
we've seen some pictures that you've shared with us as well. I mean, throughout the years, you've built this following. It seems like.
Yeah, we love our current location here in Fresno. I always say that I'm, a donut kid. I kind of grew up in donut shops helping my family, and that continued even though I started my own career in journalism. I would still always have to kind of help out on the weekends. So even when I was a full-time journalist, I would end up working at least on the weekends to help out with customers, and that's a picture of them currently now at our place. Um, and and even up until recently, when I was at KVPR, not a lot of people know it, but I kind of had to straddle both worlds where on the weekends, my customers knew me as, the daughter helping out her parents. And then the weekdays I was going to press conferences and, trying to meet deadlines and stuff. So yeah, it was kind of a crazy period.
I mean, donut by night, deadline by day, it seems like, right? Kind of battling both worlds in a way.
Definitely. But it was so worth it. And it just got to the point where I couldn't really keep doing that schedule. My folks have been experiencing some health issues. They're getting much older. I mean, they've been in the donut business for 35 years now. This year marks 35 years. Wow. And, that weighs on your body. And so I just knew that I needed to step in more. And I kind of had to make that change late last year. And that was to kind of move into working at the donut shop full time and setting aside, my journalism career for now. And, but in the meantime, I've been also working on writing still, maybe not journalism, but creative writing. I got into Fresno State's MFA program for creative writing, which is such a wonderful program. So many authors and poets that come out of that. And so that's kind of what I've been doing. And I've been writing about the donut shop while I'm in that program, writing about my parents and kind of how we started.
I mean, you're finding inspiration right within your own family history, it seems like.
Absolutely. There's so much to talk about. Just part, it's part of California history. Not a lot of people know about this historical connection between Cambodians and donut shops. And it's something that I've never really talked about too much. And I found that now that I've kind of been able to step away and focus on writing now my own story after I worked professionally for so many years, that it's all starting to come out now, is an understanding of our journey here and what it's meant for us. And it's not over yet. There's still so much ahead, and we don't know what's ahead.
You did mention something very telling earlier. You said that you're kind of putting a pause on your journalism career. Do you see yourself going back? And if so, is there kind of a timeline for you to do that?
I do see myself going back. I really do. At some point when I can step away from the donut shop and I feel like my parents are going to be okay without me being there as much, then I would love to get back into journalism, especially broadcast journalism. I started in TV. I started producing, actually. So you and I would have worked together. Great, Christina.
Absolutely. I can already tell.
That was actually, radio was my first love. And I did that actually in college when I was an undergrad at Fresno State. I worked as a college radio DJ, and that just really launched my love for broadcast and media. And once I got out of Fresno State, in TV. And so I did that for a long time, producing news behind the scenes, working with anchors like yourself. And I worked in Fresno, and then I went to Sacramento, and finally just kind of got out of the business for a little bit. And when I moved back to Fresno during the pandemic, I really didn't expect to get back into news at all. It just was sort of an accident. I came back because the pandemic was so scary for small businesses, and I was worried about my family. And so once I started working there, it was actually kind of crazy that my connection that I had at the radio station at Fresno State was actually the thing that came back to connect me to radio again. That was my station manager, Joe Moore, who worked with me at Fresno State. Well, when he reached out to me, when he found that I was back in Fresno, he was now the general manager at KVPR, which is the NPR station here. And because we'd known each other for so long, he gave me a shot, and I ended up working at KVPR, and it was so life-changing. I mean, going back into journalism, but as a reporter role, was so eye-opening. I learned so much. I met so many amazing people.
Mm.
And I just have such a love for storytelling and the creativity that I was able to kind of, dig into with radio journalism that I had never experienced before. And so I would just love to go back and produce more audio journalism.
I think you got a lot left in you, especially in that career. So young and you're so talented. You did find a lot of success with Valley Public Radio as well. Can you kind of touch on some of your milestones with KVPR?
Oh, sure. Yes. Thank you so much. The big one was that I won a National Edward R. Murrow Award for an investigative story that I did on pandemic learning and attendance at schools. I just remember it was such a big story, and I had never gone through that much data before from different school districts, but, really worked at it for, I think at least a good 6 months on that story. And it finally came out, and I think it hit a chord with the judges, and I was able to win that national award for KVPR, which was actually the first national award for the station. And that I actually got to go to New York and accept that. It was really a dream making moment. It really was.
Wow.
And
In that photo, you're beaming in that photo. And of course, you have that award behind you as well. You displaying it proudly, as you should. A lot of hard work went into getting that award and to earning that award. So congratulations to you. I know that is not easy at all. When you were accepting that award, did you think of your parents? Did you kind of get a flashback of their faces, or what were you thinking
Gosh, yeah, I just remember feeling so lightheaded and going, is this real? Am I really here? Being in this room full of so many talented journalists from across the country, and knowing that they were giving me a seat here, and so yeah, I did think about that journey of I thought about like that photo of all of us as refugees, and, in the camps, and how far that journey was for me to come back to this moment. Yeah, there I am, the little baby in the hat. And so yeah, I think it really hit me afterwards, but it definitely was just a realization of how long that journey was. And also during my time at KVPR, I was so proud to be able to report on things that were important to Cambodian Americans, and kind of maybe tell stories and shed light on things that impacted the culture in probably ways that people haven't thought about. And that was that, because we survived this genocide, a lot of people came away with a lot of mental health issues, PTSD, trauma that was untreated because they may not have the language to ask for it, or they may not have the capacity to seek that kind of treatment. And so it was a story that always stayed with me, and I was able to do a couple projects on that with 2 fellowships at KVPR. One was with USC and another was with the Carter Center. And that was such an incredible experience, both of those fellowships. But with the Carter Center, it was Rosalind Carter's Fellowship for Mental Health Journalism, which has been around for decades, and it's helped hundreds of journalists tell these amazing stories about mental health in their communities. And so when I was able to do that story, I connected directly with her aide, Kathy Cade, who worked with her throughout her time in the administration, and stayed connected with her and was really great friends with her. And she was kind of the leeway between me and the Carter Center. And she told me this incredible story about how the First Lady, when she saw images of the refugees kind of fleeing over the border in 1979, she actually made the decision to fly over there into a war zone and to meet with the refugees and see what was happening, because she heard that, they just weren't getting the help that they were needing.
Mm.
And her trip there really opened her eyes to the need. And when she came back, she helped to organize kind of a system to bring aid to the region. And then she launched a national fundraising campaign that raised, I think, about $80 million in 1980. All of that went directly to refugees. And these were people all across the country. I read in her memoir about her addressing this campaign, and she said children were sending in letters and sending in their 10-cent allowances because they wanted to help Cambodian refugees at the time. Like everybody was pitching in, corporations, church members, everybody. And that's why they were able to raise so much money. And ultimately, that money helped to bring food and medicine and clothing. You can see how just rail thin that man is in that photo. And all of that kind of trickled down to me eventually when I was born, and so it was this really crazy full circle moment in my career where I didn't realize that story about her. And it was only until I got a fellowship through her that I learned about it and was able to communicate it back in my storytelling.
That is incredible. And this kind of lends itself to addressing the mental health issues within the Cambodian culture and really community right here in the Central Valley and in other parts of the communities. Why is that so special to you? Why is that something that is so important to you? And maybe a issue that really goes underreported?
Sure. Yeah, it really is underreported. A lot of families don't like to talk about what happened in the genocide because it was so traumatic. A lot of people went through terrible, terrible things and witnessed awful things that they don't like to bring up or talk to their kids about. And so they just kind of hold it inside and no one knows about it. And the only reason I even knew it was an issue was because um, there was a point where I had to work kind of a side gig. And one of the side gigs was as an interpreter for Cambodians who were going to, like social service appointments, medical appointments, stuff like that. And I thought, okay, well, it's just some extra cash and I have some time to do it and I'll do it. But what I found was that everybody that I was meeting had some sort of health issue, psychological or emotional issue that was still tied to what happened to them decades ago. Um, literal scars on their bodies, just living with not being able to kind of go through life without medication, stuff like that. And they needed me to kind of translate this stuff for them with their healthcare providers. And I thought, wow, if this little tiny, section of people that I'm helping and everybody is kind of having these same kind of issues, what is it like for the rest of the culture? It seems like something that no one's talking about. And it was an experience that was deeply even traumatic for me to go through. So much so that I couldn't even do the job anymore because it was so hard to hear people's stories, to understand, their immense needs that I just felt like I can't provide, all this help that you need. And so once I kind of got back into journalism, when I found out that I could actually have a chance to report on this, I took that chance. And I just really wanted to highlight that this is an issue that's still going on.
Absolutely. And because of your own experiences culturally and even in your family history, you were able to kind of see an understanding, a compassion in your storytelling that really helped you elevate the coverage of the story. I think that's really important, which kind of leads me to my next point. We've been speaking a lot about representation, you and I, in conversations previous to this live stream, and why representation matters so much in media, why it's so important for audiences and readers and viewers to see people that live next door to them or people in their community that look just like them or speak their same language or have their same upbringing. Tell me why that is so important for you and what you've noticed in your own kind of storytelling journey.
Yes, thank you so much. It really is so important to look around the room and go, I see myself in that person. I can relate to this person. And I say that because when I first started working in media, this was before there was a lot of diversity in the industry. And so I would often find myself around a lot of veteran, broadcasters, and they're often white and male. And, it can be daunting for a young woman of color to kind of be the only one, like with her experiences, inside, say, a news meeting or something. And so it was always so encouraging to me when I would see other reporters, other women, especially who were maybe of Asian descent. I've never met another Cambodian journalist, and I knew that that was kind of a long shot. And still, I haven't met another Cambodian American journalist, but I have had so many incredible mentors along the way, mentors who have looked more similar to me and who looked at me and said, I know what you're going through, and I know how you're feeling, and, we can get through this together. And so when we have people who can kind of understand this in a way that you don't have to put words to, there's something that's just invaluable about that, and we need more of that. And so that's why it's so important for me to be here with you right now and to talk about this, and hope that my story reaches somebody, maybe a young person who is thinking about becoming a journalist or something, that it's possible, and there are a lot of people who are out there who will create a space for you and a community for you.
You may be the first, but you definitely won't be the last. I think you're opening a lot of doors, like you said, for those young journalists who are coming behind you, and your story is such an example. It is inspiring, and it's not finished yet, right? You're still writing the story, and really your next chapter, pursuing your MFA at Fresno State, and your impending return to journalism, which I know everybody is awaiting that. And you're going to be doing great things for a very, very long time. That I have no doubt about.
Thank you so much. Yes, actually, I have a reading coming up this
That's
weekend.
right.
Yeah. So all the creative writing I've been doing, I've been sort of seeding those out in different readings. And this weekend is going to be the San Joaquin Valley Book Fest. And I'm so excited to be a part of this. It's so many amazing names in our literary community are going to be there reading their incredible work. And and I'm going to be reading a couple pieces that I've written about my family and the donut shop and kind of the history behind that. So Saturday, May 4th, and it all starts, I think, around 9 o'clock with children's author book readings. And now these are all local authors, and that's the amazing thing is it's gathered all local writers, poets, and they're going to be there selling their local books. And so it's like a pop-up bookstore, and then you're going to get to sit around and hear a lot of writers reading their work. And so I'll be up around the 10:30 hour, and my parents are giving me the day off at the donut shop to go. So
that is very generous. That is very nice. I love that. Well, as they should. I mean, they're very much, they're probably your biggest fans, and so that is exciting, definitely. And we'll definitely share that event with our audience and let them know how they can attend and where they can follow for more information. But I really want to just thank you for the time, Soreath, and thank you so much for your story and for being an example, and your willingness to really be transparent about your story and the struggles you've had and your history and where you're going, where you're headed. We're excited.
Thank you so much, Christina. I just so appreciate the time that you've given me here to talk about my story. And yeah, if I can be of any service, please let me know.
Absolutely. Until next time, Soreath Hok, thank you so much for sharing your story with all of us today. And we look forward to seeing what you do in the future.
Thank you. Thank you.